I know I'm not your typical teacher with the tattoos and things like that. And no matter, where you go in life, people are going to judge you. That's just the way it is. That's just how people are. Yeah, that's one thing I really worked hard on, is making these kids take some ownership of this room and make it pretty. I give them something to do. I teach them the content for 45 minutes, whatever, 50 minutes, an hour sometimes. And then afterwards, I go and I sit down, or at least sit down or kneel down and talk to every single student, every class period. And it's not always content related. Sometimes it's just like, hey, I like that shirt. Sometimes like, what'd you do this weekend? Did you work? But I would do that consistently every day. And throughout the year, I start to earn their trust. So I bought a red encyclopedia. I don't know why, but I did. And I was just reading this encyclopedia, and I read it so many times, and I still to this day can see the pages of the volcanoes and space and Earth, and I was just so intrigued by it. I did go to college for geoscience. So I got my bachelor's in geology from UNLV. And they see, I'm like, oh my God, guys, look what I got this weekend. And I just pull up a rock. And they're just like, really, mister? And I'm like, yeah, let's pass it around. And it's like, they make fun of me. But eventually they start bringing me rocks. And, I'm like, did you guys see that volcano that erupted? And I'll show the video at the beginning of class. And that passion, that's one thing that students have said a lot about me over the years. You're the most passionate teacher I've ever had. Da, da, da. I was helping one student. She's just like, I don't like anything. And then eventually, down the road, I figured out, she likes roller coasters and she's good at math. Well, maybe you should go be an engineer and design some roller coasters, right? So now she's in college doing that, pursuing an engineer career. Since I've won Heart of Education and Teacher of the Year for the last 2.5 years, I've gotten a lot of people asking me how I teach, not what I teach. So this is the first time that someone's asked me. So that was a little bit different. The content's obviously important, but just as important is the lessons that you learn in between classes, in between the content, when I'm just I've closed the notes or whatever, and I'm just like, all right, guys, let's talk for a few minutes about this or that. And we have these serious conversations about life and about money and about responsibility and passion and the reality of the situation and being on time here to my class and all types of different things like that. I think those lessons are extremely important for them because they don't necessarily get them. And so the idea here is a concept called tragedy of the commons. And what that is, it's basically the thinking that I am going to do this just for myself and my family, but not realizing that there's a million other families doing the same thing. So it's that collective result that ends up negatively impacting our environment, right? So I'm only gonna cut down enough trees for my family's house. And so I don't wanna kill the forest. Well, if there's a billion families doing that, then it's a problem, right? That's called tragedy of the commons. Oh, I'm gonna go to Africa and just shoot one black rhino. Well, if there's 100,000 people doing that, we got no more black rhinos, right? So that's I teach them all about this human sustainability, overfishing, that the oceans will be useless in 2050. That's what some scientists predict. And then the next class, I set up a lab here, and these are all oceans. These tables are all oceans, and they got a plate, and it's got goldfish crackers, and it's got Swedish fish crackers, and blue gummy sharks, and gummy worms that I count as electric eels, and oyster crackers I count as oysters, and I entice them. I give them an incentive to win. I tell them whatever team or person makes the most money wins a free drink of your choice and a bag of chips of your choice. And so they're into it because they want that. But what they're not realizing is, and it doesn't matter how many times I tell them, don't forget the unit that we're in. We're in human sustainability unit. Don't forget, think about that stuff as you're doing it. This lab's called overfishing. Don't forget. But they overfish, and so we'll do season after season, and after a couple seasons, I go around with all the goldfish and Swedish fish and whatever I have, and whatever they have in their ocean, I double it. So if they don't have anything in their ocean, I just walk right on by their table, and I don't say anything to them. And they're like, excuse me, Lawson, you skipped us, and I'm just like, oh, I'll get back. you know, and then I just never go back, and I go and sit, and they're just confused because they can't leave their ocean at the time. And then after a couple seasons, they, you know, I tell them that they've upgraded their boat and their technology. It's part of sustainability is technology, and now they can travel to other oceans, right? And so they'll travel around to the classroom, to other people's oceans, and start catching fish out of those. We've got tables that I got some oceans that nobody's sitting at, and so I'll double the whole thing. Next thing you know, it's got a pile of things. And then some of the questions that they have to try to figure out, I want them to figure out that, oh, I get it. I overfished my ocean, and that's why you're not filling it. And that's why I'm sitting here with no fish in my ocean. So I think it's a very good lesson because we adapt all the time to it. We change the rules, we upgrade. They can do upgrades on their stuff, and I'm tricking them. I'm not tricking them, but like I said, I'm enticing them with the drink and the snack, hoping that they're gonna realize, wait a second here, we're in a human sustainability and overfishing unit. Maybe we should be not emptying our oceans this fast. Some of them get it, most of them don't, you know, at first, and then I go over it at the end, like explain to them what they did wrong.